Welcome along then to France, host of the world-famous Tour de France. But we're not talking two wheels today, we're talking four, in a country widely thought of as giving birth to the art of motor racing back in the late 1800s. We've come a long way since then, and you're about to find out how far. It's time for the French Grand Prix. The circuit Paul Ricard then, a 3.6-mile track, 25 miles east of Marseille. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, with the main overtaking chance expected going into turn 8. Top speeds today should be around 205 miles per hour. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat, Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. It's the owner-driver in pole position then, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Hamilton, Verstappen, Pierre Gasly and Bottas, Norris, Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel, Stroll, Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo and Giovinazzi. Sainz, they've taken a grid penalty. Raikkonen, Robert Schwartzman and Sergio Perez. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Russell, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin and Nicholas Latifi. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today I am here with a race that I have certainly been looking forward to, and a race that I hope you guys have been looking forward to, the French Grand Prix in My Team Career Mode Season 1. And as I'm sure you can see, no one else in front of us apart from Bernd Mailander in the safety car. We're on pole position for this one after a stunning, fantastic qualifying. If you guys haven't watched that, fantastic Q3. It started raining, first come first served. Quicker you were out, the more grip you would have on your lap, and those who went out later paid the price. If you guys hadn't watched that video, I highly recommend it. Really fantastic qualifying video. But of course, we line up on pole, and as I'm sure you guys, if you watched qualifying, you will have seen that when we went through the grid, some drivers who were in the top 10 have taken grid penalties. Rather interesting with some of them, amongst them likes of Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz. We're going to go through that in a minute, but before, we're going to have a look at the race strategy. As I'm sure you can see, the soft tyre compounds certainly aren't the best race tyre round here at Paul Ricard. As I'm sure you can see, two strategies, both of them a two-stroke, one of which incorporates the hards, one of which incorporates the mediums, but I do think we're going to be better with the mediums. If we're on lap number 8 or 9 and we are struggling, then we may come in onto possibly a set of hards a bit earlier. You know, we might come in onto the hards if we're really struggling on those mediums with tyre wear. But really, I think this is probably going to be the best strategy for us, that two-stopper. 5 laps on the softs, 11 laps on the mediums, 11 laps on the mediums. It does, however, mean that those further behind are going to have a good chance in terms of gaining some positions when they can go for the one-stopper. So let's have a look at the grid in a bit more detail. Well then, the lovely grid, and as I'm sure you can see, the whole of the top 7 on the softs, they all got through to Q3. We line up on pole alongside a Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who's taken 2 podiums in the last 2 races. Hopefully he can make it 3 today for Ferrari and really pull the battle to Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. And of course Mercedes potentially in for a P2 if they continue this form. Hamilton lines up P3 despite the frustrating qualifying session he had in Q1 and Q2. Couldn't find much pace, neither could Mercedes, but they got out of it pretty early good position on the track, putting a decent lap, and he lines up P3. Max Verstappen way too late on his lap, paid the price. He should have really been on pole if it was a dry session, but it wasn't because he was too late. It didn't get to the buffet quick enough, and he had to settle with some disappointing food. 4th place for him in the Red Bull, but he's blisteringly quick. He is going to be flying up to battle ourselves and Charles at the top. Pierre Gasly lines up P5 despite what was a pretty okay-ish qualifying position, becomes a fantastic one with 3 grid penalties for other drivers. Valtteri Bottas lines up P6 for Mercedes. Again, he got out a bit too late, but not really got that pace have Mercedes this weekend. They've got similar pace to Ferrari, and Red Bull are certainly superior. So Mercedes might be struggling a little bit. Verstappen, I think, will be coming up the order, but Bottas will be looking in front of him thinking, I can get past Gasly. He want to get to his teammate, and he wants to try and bring Mercedes a little bit further up the order in terms of this weekend, because they don't have great race pace, and maybe see if Mercedes can take a podium, but that'll be interesting. Of course, before it was 5 different teams in the top 5. It's still 5 different teams in the top 5, but this time we don't have a McLaren in there. That's because the highest McLaren now, Lando Norris, P7. He had a disastrous Q3, the slowest of all, didn't get out quick enough, paid the price. He was too late out on his track, there wasn't enough grip, and therefore he couldn't put in any sort of a competitive lap time. He'll have quite a lot of work in the Grand Prix in his battle with AlphaTauri. And right behind him, we've got Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, and Sebastian Vettel have all been promoted into the top 10. Those 3 were knocked out in Q2, but Yuki Tsunoda, P8. That AlphaTauri is quick, and we saw in qualifying that the top 10 were quite a lot quicker than Tsunoda, but Tsunoda was still quite a bit quicker than likes of Alonso and Vettel, because those AlphaTauris are so strong and taking the fights at McLaren. Wouldn't be surprised to see Yuki Tsunoda sticking to the back of Norris and maybe getting in an 8-car train with all of us and fighting for some really decent points again. That'd be great for the Japanese driver. Then Alonso for Alpine. Alpine still yet to score. He'll be hoping that he can pull them along to their first points finish of the season. It's been a disappointing start, and they've got quite a bit to catch up to the Aston Martins. P10 and 11. They'll be trying to get ahead of the Alpines at the start and then stay there. Esteban Ocon, P12. Not too bad for him. He's had some disappointing results, but the promotion, because of grid penalties, is certainly helping him and also helping him get away from the Giovinazzi of Alfa Romeo. They had similar pace in qualifying, so be glad Daniel Ricciardo's there, but he's going to be charging up the field. He's, of course, on the soft, so despite taking grid penalty, still has to use the soft tyre compound. He is going to struggle and might not even make it into the points. He probably will, but let's not forget those others on the mediums are going to be going for a one-stop, probably onto the hards. So they're going to have a real disadvantage in terms of the tyres they're using the hards, but they've got one less pit stop, and that's going to mean that Ricciardo's going to get past them, but then he's just going to be put behind them twice. Of course, well, they're going to have to pit once. He's got a whole extra pit stop to do. Giovinazzi, P14, really great there. He's Ferrari customer, ahead of a Ferrari Carlos Sainz. Sainz, of course, taking grid penalties. Both Ricciardo and Sainz, I do believe, taking 10-place grid penalties. I think that's for one new engine component. So you can see how we were hit for the Spanish Grand Prix, really, struggling with engine wear, but so are many other drivers, and it's spicing up the grid a little bit. Kimi Raikkonen promoted to P16. My teammate now P17, with Sergio Perez down to P18. He's taken a component change. That's another 10 places down the order for the Mexican, of course, not a surprise after having that DNF at the previous Grand Prix. Not the previous one, the one before that at Imola. So a bit of a frustration for him. All the way down P18. He's probably not going to get points. He's going to have a lot of working up the order if he wants to get anywhere near it. Russell P20, Russell P19, Schumacher P20, Mazepin 21st, and Latifi 22nd. All of those 4 drivers have not been helped by any of the grid penalties. In terms of the order then, everyone who started in the top 10 who was supposed to start in the top 10, who got through to Q3, will start on the soft tyre compound. That's a 2-stop for them. Everyone else, apart from Latifi's opted for the mediums. They'll be going for a one-stop, but Latifi's pretty much committed himself to a two-stop. So really interesting strategy there. I don't know if he's gone for something out of the box. He needs to pace off the starting P22, but he's probably not going to be competitive at the end of the race, having to do an extra pit stop in front of some slower Hasses and Williams. Of course, on slower medium tyres, he's probably not going to get that much of an advantage and might end up dropping down the order. But what to watch for in this Grand Prix? Ourselves on pole, a battle with Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Gasly, Bottas and Norris. Can Tsunoda take a nice chunk of points again for AlphaTauri, along with his teammate Gasly, who's consistently scoring? And then, of course, further back, will Alpine be able to take their first points of the season? Another thing to watch for is Ricciardo, Sainz and Perez charging through the field. Perez had blistering pace along with Verstappen in practice and qualifying. Be interesting to see if Perez can make his way up into the top 10, because I'm telling you, when he gets in clean air, he is going to be quick. But we're starting from pole, and that is pretty much it for the grid. So we're going to get into the race. Before I do, though, if you haven't already, guys, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot, but I'm not going to hold you waiting for the excitement of ourselves starting from pole for the French Grand Prix here. Don't forget to hit the like button. As I said, let's get into it. Well then, a short rundown to the first corner at the French Grand Prix. 5 red lights. They're out and away we go here at Circuit Paul Ricard. It's a very decent start for Charles Leclerc behind Hamilton, dropping down the order. Gasly having a look as we go a little bit deep into the first corner. Leclerc on the outside line, didn't really see him there. Gasly up to P3. Absolutely flying AlphaTauri there. Fantastic to see him doing that. As is he going to send it on Charles Leclerc? He's going to try. But Leclerc's going to keep the position. A little bit messy through turn 1 there, but we are in P2. Hamilton down to P5. Verstappen P4. Great start for Gasly. Wow, what a start to this Grand Prix. And Yuki Tsunoda is just behind Valtteri Bottas as here comes the Monegasques. Gasly and Verstappen battling, and Verstappen's ahead of Gasly. What a start to this Grand Prix. I think we'll have to have a look at a lovely race replay of this one. Let's have another look at the race replay then. We got away off the line pretty nicely here. So did Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen did too, but Pierre Gasly flying forward there. You can see him battling Lewis Hamilton into the first corner. We comfortably stay ahead. Verstappen couldn't make it stick around the outside line. Leclerc had a look round the outside line there. Pierre Gasly up into P3. A really dramatic start. We're in a very nice position as we take out one of the many bollards that won't survive this race. Leclerc stays ahead of Pierre Gasly. And there you go. What a fantastic start to the race for ourselves. We're, of course, up into P1 and in a tasty position. A bit of defending there to do against Charles there, but doesn't really go for anything too ridiculous into the chicane. So there is your order. Ourselves ahead of Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly, Hamilton, Norris, Bottas, Tsunoda, Vettel, Alonso, Ocon, Stroll, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi. Great start for Sergio Perez. He's up into P15. Giovinazzi, Sainz, Schwartzman, Russell, Latifi, and then the 2 Hassas. No real shocks in the order. End of lap number 1 then. On to the second lap. We lead the French Grand Prix here. What a French Grand Prix it has been to start with, of course. Ourselves P1 still, and Leclerc could be coming under fire from the Dutchman Max Verstappen behind. Of course, in real life, he won this World Championship. But as we go fastest in purple sector in the first sector, fastest there. But of course, Bottas does lead the championship, and he is right behind the lovely McLaren of Mr. Lando Norris. So interesting for the championship here. Verstappen and Hamilton are going to both be gaining on Bottas, but not by that much to bring the deficit back, as Hamilton is ahead of Pierre Gasly there. Lovely work from him. He is, of course, now up into P4. He'll be looking to try and stay as close to as possible to Max Verstappen. But as I'm sure you can see, as a group, you know, us, Leclerc and Verstappen were getting away from Hamilton and Gasly because the Mercedes just simply don't have the pace this weekend that we have, the Red Bulls have, and the Ferraris somehow have. But yeah, really interesting start to this one here, as we mess up the final corner a little bit. Not the best first 2 laps in terms of the quality of them, but P1, Leclerc's caught up to us.
We're approaching the pit
He
window.
has gone
We'll be on
quickest.
the mediums.
He's even gone quicker than Max Verstappen. Let's not forget though, we are going to have to pit very soon. We need to make the most of these softs so we don't get in too much traffic when we exit the pit. Those are the likes of Yuki Tsunoda are looking like they could have a lot of points in this one, because they have that one stopper, so they can be nice and comfortable with that one stopper. You know, they are going to be pitting once, and they're going to be helped by a lot of traffic. Tsunoda, of course, the highest of those on the mediums at the moment. The Alpines, though, looking pretty good at the moment for a decent result. Perez has had a good start. Carlos Sainz hasn't. The Ferrari struggling, while his teammate is looking to fight us for the lead pretty soon. And it was a fantastic start for Pierre Gasly, but this is later on lap 2. He's dropped the position to Verstappen, and Lewis Hamilton goes around the outside into the chicane, comfortably ahead up to P4. Gasly down to P5, second lap of the race, and the Frenchman starting to plummet down the order back to where he was to start with. He's got the McLaren of the Umbret Lando Norris behind. Well, lap number 4 then, and as I'm sure you can see, the field's starting to break into pieces. You know, it's starting to form, we're starting to see who's got the pace, who hasn't, and it's becoming a 3-car race here for the victory in this one. This looks like the likely podium at the moment, ourselves, Leclerc and Verstappen, but in what order? Hamilton slowly dropping away. He's in the pack with Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, and his teammate Hamilton's teammate Valtteri Bottas. We've gone quickest in the first sector this lap. We've gone okay in the middle. Verstappen went quickest last lap. He's using his softs to good effect.
Keep taking care of them.
Keep taking care of them, mate. I think this is really just about pushing on this soft tyre compound, as Leclerc had a little sneaky peek, thought about a move, then thought better of it. He might have to defend a little bit from Verstappen, but no, 4 tenths ahead, not too bad. Slow in the final sector, and as I'm sure you can see, we are coming in later this lap onto the first 2 sets of mediums in this 27 lap Grand Prix. As you can see, the field's really starting to form, and I just want to say a massive well done to Yuki Tsunoda. He is well off that pack that has, quite a bit off the pack with the other cars on the one stop. So he is going along really nicely for AlphaTauri, and points are soon looking on for him when he's on that one-stop strategy. Updates on further down the order. Ricciardo and Perez are charging through the field. They're P11 and P12. They've got Alonso and Vettel in front. That's clear. All those drivers on the one-stop, and there you go. It seems that, yep, Perez is going for the move on Ricciardo. Can't get it done, as Sainz behind is battling with Esteban Ocon. Sainz certainly hasn't had as good of a start as the McLaren of Ricciardo and Perez, but he's now ahead of Ocon, and he's got some catching up to do to Checo in front. But good progress from those taking engine penalties so far in this Grand Prix. Later on lap number 5, Leclerc's had a few little thinks about going for an overtake, but hasn't really gone for it just yet. As we enter the pits very nicely through here, and joining us is Leclerc, and Verstappen decided to stay out. Interesting choice there. Gasly is into the pits. Who else does it see we've got? We've also got Lando Norris, I do believe, here. So hopefully we should stay comfortably ahead of Charles into the pits. Fresh medium tyres on.
Exit now.
Pit exit. And Leclerc's had a good one. He is sitting on our back
To speed
here.
now. Let's get some heat into those tyres.
We should be ahead of Nikita And we are ahead of Nikita, who isn't ahead of Nikita. Leclerc isn't ahead of Nikita. And if he doesn't clear him quickly, this could be costly for him. And Max Verstappen might be up into P2, you see. Very interesting one there. Should Ferrari have pitted or not? I don't know, but it's starting to look like maybe not, because he is dropping well away from us. As I'm sure you can see right now, Mazepin is very, very slow, and there is yellow flags. It seems there's a car going slowly. I don't know which one it is. It's a Ferrari, I think. Carlos Sainz, it looks. As I wasn't looking. No, Danny Rick, sorry, a McLaren.
Retiring from the race.
Oh, what a shame for Daniel Ricciardo. It's a mechanical failure. He's out the session. Leclerc's cleared Mazepin. Shame for Danny Rick. He had a great quality session. I think he was P3. So had he not have taken grid penalties, he would have been looking pretty tasty, but those grid penalties have proved pretty costly. And sadly, his car hasn't held up. We've seen a lot of mechanical failures. We haven't had one yet, and hopefully we won't have one today. But Leclerc 1.7 seconds behind. We've lost Ricciardo in the Grand Prix. Will Leclerc be ahead of Verstappen? I think the answer is going to be no here. Sadly, it might be no. For Leclerc, he'd be hoping that he'd get a decent result in this one, and it will be no for Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen is out, but he's on softs. This is a very aggressive and unusual strategy. Verstappen out on the softs as he comes to have a look at us there. We're going to close that off. I couldn't get the move on Schumacher. Verstappen on softs. What is this strategy? Is he going soft, hard? You know, particularly wouldn't be going onto those hards. Bit of a risky move from him. Might have to defend from him this lap. But thankfully we've got Schumacher in front. But he's coming at us. Verstappen is coming at us quite ferociously. Schumacher in front. We're going to have the outside line into this three-way battle. And we are somehow going to stay ahead by going very deep into it. And Verstappen fails to get past Schumacher. Leclerc's on the back of him. And there you have a battle between Verstappen and Schumacher behind. Verstappen gets through. That's helped us, though. And next to dispatch is, of course, young Brit George Russell in his Williams. And then our teammate in front. Our teammate should hopefully let us through. You'd think that. I don't know if the AI are going to do that, because, you know, the AI don't really have a plan for that. And Verstappen comes through, diving through on those soft tyres. He's got a lot more pace than us. Schumacher's holding up Leclerc. And then the Mercedes of Hamilton. Look how much pace Verstappen has on these softs. That's going to go quickly, though. And he is going to pay the price potentially later in the Grand Prix on slow hards when we're on fresh mediums. He's gone for the aggression now. Is that the right choice? Sergio Perez into pit off his soft tyre compound. And the order is going to start looking where you'd expect with the front runners in terms of where they're going to filter out. And then, of course, it's going to be just overtaking these slightly slower cars for a while in this one, as Verstappen has a little look at George Russell here. We also have a look at George Russell as it gets a little bit too touchy through there, but we do need to follow Verstappen through, and we do follow Verstappen through. Come on, Robert. Do us a favour here in this one.
Good job, nice overtake.
Try not to help Max get through. Come on, mate, defend him. A little bit harder. I'd like to see that. That would be jolly helpful in this situation if you can let me through too, as we lock up very deep into it. But we had to get past Robert here, and you can see the tyre wear already. Verstappen's softs aren't going to last that long in lap 9 as we head down here into this tight right-hander. Good overtaking opportunity. I thought about a move on Max, and we've got a long train here. Yuki Tsunoda, I do believe, is 12 seconds in front. And you can see how behind Leclerc has not cleared Russell. He has not cleared Schwartzman. And I do believe he's still stuck behind a Haas, as Verstappen's going to go for the move on Antonio Giovinazzi here. So very interesting, as we're going to send it down that inside line. Is the move? Space for that one, is there? A little bit of a touch with them. All over the place, a bit too deep into the corner. We've ended up ahead of Giovinazzi, but somehow still behind Max Verstappen. A little bit messy, messed up our braking point, but yeah, the Haas still leads Charles Leclerc in his Ferrari as we get a bit too close for comfort there with Max Verstappen. But I think Hamilton has cleared him. Hamilton's cleared him. Leclerc hasn't. Oh no, Leclerc might have done. I can't exactly tell. No, I don't think he has. Leclerc, I don't think he has. This is a massive shame for him as we make a mistake there. A bit of an update in terms of the order. The Alfa Romeo is going pretty well, 6th and 7th. This is after our first pit stops, the ones on. Drivers on, of course, that lovely two-stopper have pitted. Yuki Tsunoda leads the race at the moment, highest of those on the one-stopper. He could potentially be taking some fantastic points in this one. Fernando Alonso is currently P2, with the German of Vettel just behind. Then you've got quite a way back to the train of Stroll, Ocon, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, and then we're attached to that with Max Verstappen there. If you look further down the order, our teammate P10, George Russell P11. Hamilton is ahead of Mick Schumacher. This is the crucial thing. You can see further behind, it's Schumacher and Leclerc side by side. Leclerc needs the overtake now as Hamilton's going to go for the move on Russell in front, but he can't get the move done at the chicane as Hamilton's ahead of George Russell. This is a bit of a frustrating disaster here for Leclerc because he's dropping well away from Hamilton. I'm sure he'll be wanting another podium, but he's not going to get one. He doesn't catch up to Lewis, who's now up into P10. Lando Norris behind with Bottas, Gasly, Perez, and then Sainz stuck behind Nikita Mazepin, who is P19. Well, this time and place again, lap 10 this time, and Verstappen having a look at Antonio Giovinazzi, and by doing that, it's going to allow us hopefully to come through for a move on him. Behind, of course, Hamilton managed to clear Schumacher, got past Leclerc, and we're going to get past Max Verstappen. Are we? I think. Yes, we are. We managed to get past Max. Super Max. Ain't looking so super for the win now. As we get back past him, he's on the softs. We're on the mediums. So the fact we're ahead of him, massive advantage for us. As Ocon and Stroll are fighting in front, we get past Raikkonen. Verstappen doesn't. Looking great for us, but Leclerc has got a lot of work to do in this one if he wants to get back to the front. It'd be a shame if he didn't, but he's still stuck behind Mick Schumacher. Some solid defending from Schumacher, but that is really hurting the Ferrari drivers' race as Raikkonen's got to clear. Verstappen's got to clear Raikkonen. So it's not looking too great at the moment for him. I think a Williams might have pitted. The Latifi, of course, he's on that one-stop strategy on the softs. Look how far back he is from the Haas of Nikita Mazepin. In front of him is the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz as we're approaching Lance Stroll. Plenty of action at the start of this one, and it's going to be DRS down the main straight. Use plenty of DRS because we've got quite a lot in the energy store, as Ocon doesn't, of course, have DRS, and this is a bit of a tight one into first corner as we're trying not to go into Ocon, as we're going to send it down the inside line into turn 2. Is it going to be P4? Yes, it is. We're up into P4. In front, we've got Alonso, then Vettel, and then the Japanese man, Yuki Tsunoda, as behind, I do believe, the Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc has finally cleared that Haas, but he has got a lot of work to do as we get a little warning for corner cutting, took a bit too much to the inside of that one. Got to be careful with them, but Leclerc's got a lot of work to do behind, chasing up to Hamilton, and then of course Verstappen, who has now cleared another car, and he is up into P6 in this Grand Prix. Lap 12 out of 27, Verstappen behind as he comfortably cleared Ocon as we go quickest. And a lot of the one-stop drivers are coming into the pits. One of them who isn't though, Sebastian Vettel out front. Tsunoda, of course, into the pits. And you do have, along with, and as Ocon fighting with Hamilton, we do also have other drivers into the pits. I think it was the Aston Martin of Stroll, Alonso into the pits. So everyone really at the front of that, the 3 drivers, out of those 3, one yet to pit is Sebastian Vettel. Very interesting to see where they have filtered out, and they are actually looking to be in a decent position at the moment in this one. That could spice things up as Hamilton gets back past Ocon. And then behind him, Charles Leclerc. So Charles Leclerc back in this one for potentially a podium. But that would be if he can sort out getting past Ocon and then getting to Hamilton. We know he might have the pace against Hamilton, but he's got to get there first. As Verstappen on his lovely softs he's going to be struggling pretty quickly. We've got a 7-second lead on Hamilton. That's because they got stuck behind the house of Schumacher for so long and Leclerc. But to show that Leclerc's caught up that gap so quickly, he's got the pace deserving of a really good result here as Vettel peels off into the pits here at Paul Ricard. Lap number 13. And like we were on the grid, we are back into first place. Ocon pits 2. It's going to be Hamilton and then Leclerc behind him. Vettel in the pits onto the lovely hards. Norris is P5. Then behind him, I do believe we have Perez. So Perez is absolutely flying in this one. We know the Red Bulls are quick, and you can see it right now, how close Verstappen is to the back of us. But we're just putting in decent times, and we are just pumping in the laps. A win might be on here, but don't forget, look how close Yuki Tsunoda is to the back of Carlos Sainz there.
We think you're going to start losing some tyre grip around now.
And oh dear, here comes Max Verstappen with the DRS. We stay ahead of him though. He didn't really get much of an overlap there. Had a little look down there. I was a bit surprised. Thankfully he didn't fully stick himself into it and commit. That could have been dangerous as Perez and Norris are battling. So that is certainly interesting there. Perez has really got back up the order. And he is certainly on for some very tasty points. It'd be interesting to see though if Leclerc can get back ahead of Lewis Hamilton in this one. Lap 14 here, and a team little update. Max Verstappen's peeled off into the pits off his softs. Is it going to be the hards is the question. No, it's the mediums, so I don't know if he's going to go for a 4-stop here, but that would be highly ineffective. A warning for that. I can't really see that was much of an infringement, but fair enough. We'll have to be careful with them now because I think that's 2 we've clocked up. We've got to be nice and careful. Hamilton P2, Leclerc P3 a little bit behind. Question is, can Leclerc get an overtake on Hamilton? And of course later in the Grand Prix, all of us are going to have an advantage on Verstappen, and the reason why Perez is so blooming quick is because he's gone with the same strategy as Verstappen onto the soft. So is that an aggressive start to a 2-stop, but a very conservative end to the Grand Prix? Because with 12 laps left in this one, it has flown by. There's going to be an awful lot of reserving tyres for the Red Bulls as Perez is past Norris here. Perez flying, but he's going to have troubles later on. On to lap number 17 then, and Leclerc's trying that tactical undercut on Lewis Hamilton. He joins Gasly in the pits.
42.4 seconds.
Neither of the Mercedes are in, but we are going to stay out for one more lap here. We're going to stay out this lap and then bring it in. Carlos Sainz has actually recovered pretty well to P5, considering he is on the mediums, so he's not done too badly coping with that grid penalty. It shows how fast the Ferraris are though, that he's so close now to the back of Valtteri Bottas. And then of course you can see Yuki Tsunoda back of this train. I think we might just be behind him by like potentially a few seconds here in this one. We should be able to comfortably get the move on him, you know, on much fresher tyres. And we got to... What is that? Is that... I don't know what that car that is as we absolutely fluff this corner. But there's a yellow flag somewhere, and I think it's for an Aston Martin. We've lost Lance Stroll from this session. I got totally distracted by that and missed my corner. But Lance Stroll is out of the session here. Out of the Grand Prix goes Lance Stroll. Probably a mechanical, I do believe. Shame for him, but that leaves just one Aston Martin in this one. And we are in for some fresh medium tyre compounds. Should be a fairly simple pit stop. Hamilton doesn't come in this lap. His teammate doesn't come in this lap. I don't know if they're going to the softs at the end of the race. Sainz is into the pits. Verstappen's going to come through soon. Perez is behind Leclerc. We should get placed out comfortably at the moment ahead of, well, not ahead of Verstappen, of course, as Verstappen's gone quickest, but Verstappen, actually no, we are ahead of Verstappen. I wasn't expecting that. Yuki Tsunoda only 1.5 seconds-ish in front, and he's pretty slow on those hards, and we are somehow out ahead of Verstappen. So clearly, you know, those softs weren't that effective. Lance Stroll parked there with a mechanical. Shame for him. Is a podium on for Yuki Tsunoda potentially, or something like that? It'd be interesting to see where the Mercedes filter out. Bottas has come into pit, like Hamilton, on that aggressive strategy on the softs as we go quickest in this Grand Prix.
First gap to teammate behind is 30.2 seconds.
A little bit messy through this section. Yeah, Robert 30.2 seconds behind. So as you can see in the order, after the safety car has filtered out, Verstappen got past Tsunoda after very, very good defending from the young AlphaTauri driver. He is in P2 now on those mediums. Slightly more warm than us, so hopefully we should be able to just comfortably keep him behind us with no mistakes. Charles Leclerc is currently P4. If he catches up to Tsunoda, he could be on for another lovely podium here at the French Grand Prix. Of course, Hamilton out the pits is on the softs, but he is stuck behind Sergio Perez. Now, if Perez defends that position quite hard, Leclerc could certainly be on for a podium, but Hamilton is going to be quick in this one, and it's going to be quite hard to keep him behind you on the softs. Those softs are so quick. But towards the end of the stint, though, the mediums and the softs will be pretty much equal, because those softs wear out so quickly that at the end of the stint, Lewis Hamilton certainly won't be extremely quick, as we lost a bit on the curb there. Well, then a little refresh of the order in this one. This is after all the pit stops have been done. Yuki Tsunoda sadly down to P3, but we of course lead the race from Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc there, and you can see Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel going side by side behind. There was some wheel banging. Hamilton is ahead of Vettel in this one. He's going to be really pushing towards the end of the Grand Prix on those softs and have a massive advantage compared to some of the other cars. It's going to be an interesting one there to see how he can go with Charles Leclerc P4. Leclerc will need to get up to Tsunoda and clear him quickly, while Perez is holding up Lewis Hamilton behind Lando Norris up into P8. He's dispatched Fernando Alonso as Carlos Sainz and Valtteri Bottas are a bit further back there. Those two battling at the moment. Gasly out the points. He's down in P12 as it stands. Lap 21 out of 27. And it is certainly looking like a busy one here in terms of those on the one stop left in the top 10. You've got Fernando Alonso likely to drop out. Only got 2.8 seconds on Carlos Sainz, and Sebastian Vettel in 7th, likely to drop out. And Tsunoda's going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to stay on the podium. Hopefully he can use his defending skills to stay there. But on just lap number 21 onto 22, he's going to have a lot of work to do in this one. Don't forget, though, Pierre Gasly and Valtteri Bottas, especially Bottas on the softs, they're going to be pushing up into the top 10. Lando Norris will be looking to climb up the order for McLaren, get some more stable results, and hopefully Leclerc will be able to fight for yet another podium after two recently at the last two Grand Prix, of course, Imola and Spain. And set our quickest lap, on at 34.3. Not too bad on these bit worn mediums. Lap 24 out of 27. Just slide off the track, it's fine. No penalties to that, no time trial. And of course the order, Yuki Tsunoda still defending that podium, and he's going to have a lot of defending to do if he wants to stay there. He's on hards, and in that you've got Leclerc on the mediums and Hamilton on the softs, and if Leclerc gets held up any more by Yuki Tsunoda, he could be losing the position to the world champion Lewis Hamilton. They're quite a way behind. We have a 4-second lead on Max Verstappen. It's an interesting one here in terms of the battle for P3. Hamilton certainly looking the best in this situation, despite Mercedes' lack of power, and that is also, though, sort of sending them into a situation as Leclerc is ahead of Tsunoda down the straight. We're going to have a look at the replay of that, but Tsunoda gets back ahead of Leclerc. My days, are they tussling. And Tsunoda stays ahead. This is going to be some heroic defence to try and keep his third position here. I don't blame him. It might be his only opportunity, you know, to take a podium this season. So why not defend it, young lad? Well then, lap 24, while we're looking comfortable out front. Lovely little replay of Yuki Tsunoda starting to create a chunky looking train. We've got himself, Leclerc, Hamilton and Perez, and Leclerc's going to look for a move down the inside line into the chicane. It's going to be a close one here, and he is ahead. Charles Leclerc into P3, but then Tsunoda brakes later. really sends it into the corner and somehow keeps the position done there. Tsunoda's got a lot of defending if he wants to stay in P3 in this race, but might be possible here. Really fantastic defending from the young Japanese driver, but that train's just going to build up and build up with Valtteri Bottas all the way back there. He's ahead of Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, really flying up the order as Valtteri on those softs. And you can just see how close he is now to the back of Sergio Perez. Tsunoda's causing quite a train like we were at the Spanish Grand Prix at this point on those very worn hards. Bottas, Norris and Sainz could be set to join the party and try and grab some points in this one. This is lap 25 on the head down to this tight right-hander, and Lewis Hamilton's trying to come through on Charles Leclerc, and he's got the move done. Lewis Hamilton up into P4 past the Monegasque. Lovely move there. And Hamilton in front is going to be chasing down Yuki Tsunoda. This is his opportunity. Lewis Hamilton onto the back of the young Japanese driver. Once again, Tsunoda's going to have to defend it. And he's lost the position. Or has he? He's gone for it again round the outside line. Sent it. Doesn't manage to go off track. Keeps it on the track. Keeps the rubber on the tarmac. And Yuki Tsunoda stays in P3. What a drive from him on this one-stop strategy. The nearest driver on the one-stop strategy, Sebastian Vettel in P10. This is some fantastic driving. Bottas on the back of this now. Norris is catching up, but what defending from Yuki Tsunoda here as we're heading towards the end of lap number 25, but unlucky for him, Lewis Hamilton's looking pretty close to the back of him this time round. DRS down the main straight, it will certainly be. And you can see we've now got P3 down to 8 in a lovely long train. And here comes Lewis Hamilton around the outside line. Is he going to go for the move into the first corner? Gets the inside for the second corner. Max Verstappen, P2. Lewis Hamilton, P3, the title rivals, back on the podium, and now Tsunoda's got to defend from Leclerc. Oh, what a shame for Yuki Tsunoda on the second to last lap. He's lost out to Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. He's up into P4, and Tsunoda's got a chunk of defending to do here from Sergio Perez behind, who's chasing, and here comes Valtteri Bottas from P7. This could be a fantastic finish to the race for him, as Perez is going to try and send it down the inside line. It could be 3 wide. No, it isn't. Perez backs off. But there goes through Valtteri Bottas into P5. Both the Mercedes in the top 5. Fantastic scenes here. Yuki Tsunoda, unlucky there, loses the position. There's nothing he can do on these super worn hards at this point. And Perez is going to be the next man up to have a little taster. But shame for Tsunoda that he's dropped down. But hopefully he can just keep the car in 6th and maybe still take home a decent amount of points here, but I'm sure Perez, Norris and Sainz will be having plenty of other ideas in this one. Well then, on to the last lap we head.
This is your final lap of the race.
And it is Hamilton set to take P3, not too shabby for Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas currently P5. He's made his way up the order. He's going to be pressuring Charles behind, who's in P4. Real shame for Yuki Tsunoda back there. He is just defending his heart out from the Red Bull of Perez. But we're on our final lap here. Going to go through it with you guys. Maybe Leclerc would go for an overtake. Possibly he would go for an overtake, but he's pretty close to the back of Hamilton. He'd have to go for it into the chicane. But yeah, what a race it has been for us. We are set to come home P1 for the first time in this career mode. Certainly, I don't think will be the last. What a Grand Prix it has been. We're probably going to need another CE next time out. Too much wear on there to risk keeping that one for the next Grand Prix. Leclerc looking like he's not going to be able to get a move on the 7-time world champion. It's going to be ourselves, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, and then Valtteri Bottas to round out the top 5. What a Grand Prix it has been here. We're approaching Latifi, the Williams, and this is going to be our first win in our My Team Career Mode Series Season 1. We're going to take the checkered flag to win.
Yes, you've done it. Well done.
Here we are then, a real team effort to overcome their rivals for a memorable win here today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Here comes your top three making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One.
Well, wow. What a victory for us then here at Circuit Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix. I can't quite believe this one. Fantastic race from ourselves, and we win 4.394 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who was in the Red Bull. We also somehow take the fastest lap on our two-stopper, 1 minute 33, 7.58. That was our final lap. And my gosh, was it a good one. We were on the mediums, and then we started doing a lap that wouldn't be too disappointing for the likes of an Alpine in qualifying if it got through to Q3. That is a beauty of a lap on very worn mediums there. That was even quicker than Valtteri Bottas's 1 minute 34, 176. But really, the Mercedes didn't get too much clean air, and as a result, didn't really manage to set that great laps. There was always some sort of action on their lap that sort of disabled them from setting a great lap on the softs. So there we have it. First on the grid, from pole position to first at a perfectly executed two-stopper to take a lovely maximum 26 points here in France. Doesn't that have a great ring to it? Our first win of the career mode. And for that, guys, smash the like button below. I think we deserve it. Max Verstappen, P2 from 4th on the grid. Pretty close to us, but 18 points for the Dutchman. Solid Grand Prix for him. He started down in 4th. He struggled a little bit at points, dropping away from us, but really solid work from him. He was putting in those consistent laps. He certainly had the pace over Hamilton and Leclerc, and that was sort of proved when Leclerc was in the battle with us and Verstappen started to drop away a little bit and eventually didn't really have the pace to join us. Really solid result for Max Verstappen, P4 to P2. Great race for him, and that will help him certainly in the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton started P3, finished P3. Pretty poor start to the race, dropped down the order, but then made his way back up onto the podium on the penultimate lap, getting past Yuki Tsunoda, and then stayed ahead of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, starting P2, dropped down to P4. Real shame for him. That fantastic potential for a podium just slithered away at the end. He couldn't get past Tsunoda. Hamilton got the overtake on him. And then despite getting past Tsunoda later, couldn't reach back to Hamilton, but another fantastic 12 points for the Ferrari driver. And really, he's sailing towards 5th in the championship here. Really, really nicely. Once again ahead of his teammate and the McLaren of Lando Norris. Then Valtteri Bottas, P5 from P6, the championship leader. Not with a fantastically amazing result, but certainly a very respectable and decent one for the Finn. Not too bad. I didn't really see too much of him. Didn't get the best of starts, but just sort of ploughed along. Good finish to the Grand Prix, to say the least. Dropped down the order a bit off the start. Didn't get the first stint he wanted, but improved towards the end on those softs. Sergio Perez, 18th on the grid to 6th. What a fantastic result for the Mexican. Despite those engine penalties, he finished just 21 seconds behind us from 18th. Had he not have taken the engine penalties, there's certainly a good chance he would have been on the podium alongside his teammate Max Verstappen. Really, really strong drive from him. Lando Norris, P7 for McLaren. Started P7, finishes P7. Not too poor of a result there for the young Brit. Pretty solid, 6 points. It's good to see he's getting some consistency after a poor first 2 rounds of the season. Yuki Tsunoda sadly lost out to Perez and Norris on the final lap. P8 on the grid, finishes P8 by the end of it. And considering the likes of Sainz was coming up the order from behind, and Perez, he did actually do very well, did Yuki Tsunoda there. 8th on the grid, executed that one stop, and the best driver in the field on that one stop strategy, 22 seconds behind the lead. Managed to stay ahead of Carlos Sainz, who finished P9 for Ferrari. Not too bad a result considering he took the grid penalties and dropped down to P15. He was pretty strong at the end of the race, but after the first stint he was quite a bit off Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo before he had that mechanical failure. But he was quite a bit off Perez after the first stint, but managed to catch up to him later on. Sebastian Vettel, P10, the second driver on the one stop, and the second driver on the one stop, of course, in the top 10, the Aston Martin driver. Pretty nice there to take another point for them. That'll give Aston 11 points. No, Vettel 11 points, and I think Aston Martin something like 13. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Fernando Alonso down to 11th place after 9th, which means that Alpine are still yet to score a single point this season. It's a disaster for them. Aston Martin with that point for Vettel edging even further away. Alonso P11 disappointing from P9. Ocon P13, his teammate, from P12. Just an absolute disaster for them. Pierre Gasly P12 from 5th on the grid. It just didn't work out for him. He dropped down the order. I don't know if at some point he took from wing damage. He just couldn't really find any pace compared to his teammate this weekend. Nice to see Yuki the top AlphaTauri for once, but lost the consistency, has Pierre. I'm sure that'll be back pretty soon. Kimi Raikkonen P14 with Giovinazzi P15. Solid showing for Alfa Romeo. Starting to show that they're catching up to the midfield fight. Our teammate Robert Schwartzman up to 16th. Not too bad of a result for him. He, of course, finished ahead of George Russell, Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, and then the only car to be lapped, Nicholas Latifi. He went for the two stop, and that didn't pay off for him. Lance Stroll finished 21st, with Daniel Ricciardo 22nd. Those two sadly couldn't finish the race, thanks to an engine failure. What a race for ourselves. We've taken the victory. Just so you guys know, I do have a rival now, Sebastian Vettel. Charles Leclerc remains P4, another solid showing from him, brings him closer to Bottas, 26 points behind, but has dropped 4 away from Hamilton. We have jumped up to P5 with a fantastic showing here in France. 41 points for ourselves, only 5 behind Charles Leclerc, the Monegasque. Sergio Perez is P6 for Red Bull, 2 points behind us. It's been a disappointing start to the season really for him, with Imola and then not really that great of a result in other areas. He really is going to need something good heading into Austria and Britain, so that he can be somewhere competitive. Of course, if you look at the order, 50 points for Hamilton, he's already 11 points behind the nearest man in similar cars. Carlos Sainz P7 for Ferrari, no change for him this weekend. He's quite a bit off his teammate Charles Leclerc, 20 points to be exact, but still doing strong for Ferrari, and he's ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, who failed to score, down to 8th after 2 solid fourths at the first 2 Grand Prix of the season. 24 points for him. Pierre Gasly, the man I thought would be finishing just behind in the Drivers' Championship, is down in 9th place. He has 22 points, but I'm sure that will be almost certainly doubled by the end of the season with some more solid results from the Frenchman. Lando Norris, P10. His recovery back to some sort of decent position continues. He's got 15 points on the board now, but he's still 9 points off his teammate Ricciardo, and McLaren certainly underperforming this season. Sebastian Vettel is P11 in the Drivers' Championship. He has just 9 points in this one, with Yuki Tsunoda P12, who has of course 8. Tsunoda catching up to Vettel in the Aston Martin. We're going to see that from Yuki. He'll be hoping to get maybe up into P11 by the end of the season. Lance Stroll remains on 2 points. Everyone else still yet to score, including the Alpines. In terms of the constructors' standings, Mercedes, AMG, Petronas have 122 points. Their lead has been brought down to 30. It's been brought down a little bit this weekend, but still, that is quite a chunk to claw back. Ferrari are 50 points behind the front with 72. Then that's quite a big gap to ourselves in P4 with 41 points, all of those from myself. McLaren are dropped down to P5. They're just 2 points behind us, but a huge chunk, I think 33, off Ferrari. It's looking like Ferrari are a bit closer to the front battle than they are to the battle against McLaren. AlphaTauri are just 9 points behind McLaren now, with that great result for Yuki Tsunoda, keeping them pretty close to the Papaya Orange car. Really great work from AlphaTauri to be close to them, and of course you saw that in the R&D this weekend they were pretty similar. Wonder if that continues and that trend will become a battle for maybe 4th, because I certainly don't think we'll be staying there ourselves. Aston Martin P7. Really great to see them trying to get into this battle with AlphaTauri, but they're still quite a bit off. They're looking pretty solid for 7th. Everyone else then still yet to score, including Alpine. They have got a lot of work to do as a team. But there is your race result. We win our first Grand Prix of the career mode, only 4 races in. Fantastic French Grand Prix, plenty of overtakes and plenty of defending, specifically from Yuki Tsunoda. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and catch me next time in this series for what will be the Austrian GP qualifying.